Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I hope you will enjoy with that tutorial, and I would like to explain you something different in that case because I'm going to talk about the bases. So in general terms, make the bases, it's really important for our miniatures. Everybody knows that. But the most interesting is understand that the base should follow the miniature. So you don't have to create the base and then paint the miniature, or try to make a huge base and then really small miniature in the middle. So the main part should be the miniature, and then the base should be continue following the same colors, ideas, in general terms, the environment you made it for the miniature. So in that case, I would like to explain you some ideas how I made it the base. So in that case, I was playing with snow, ice, stalactites, and ideas like that, with rocks. So the idea is to represent something wet and cold for him, for my orc. That good tree path, I think, is a nice model to represent like that, because I thought that green orc, it's not my case, and I decided to paint with turquoises and something colder, so why not represent something like that? The best idea, the stalactites. Why? I'm going to explain you just to paint and how to make them with plastic, just that, from a blister, and we'll be ready. Then, what do you have to add on the bases? The most interesting is understand that you have different glues to use snow. For example, you have the option to use white glue, which one will perfect, then acrylic glossy varnish, which one will work perfectly, and then wet or water effects, like I'm using now, and which one will work perfectly. So talking about that one, how you have to make the bases. The idea is first represent something really dark. Why? Because we want to play with a huge contrast between the base with something darker and then the white from the snow. So you have to add the mixes with different snows. For example, you have the option to play with the snow, crushed snow and powder, with both at the same time, mix them, if we are mixing colors in the same way, but in that case with different kind of snows. You will have a perfect base coat for our miniature. Something like that I think could be interesting. Why? Because the texture will have different tonalities, different shades, different thick and thin layers, some of them with glossy, like crystals, some of them more like powder. So you have the option to use, for example, in that case, as I'm doing, for example, with that one that I'm using with slash at the end to have that bright from the snow. I know that everybody will explain you that you have to use just a single snow and just that, but because I would like to play with a lot of shades or tonalities, all my colors with the base will be the same. If you play with more colors, with more taste, with more materials, at the end you will have something more interesting than just a single one. So remember that if you play with more and more and more, at the end you will have more places to watch, to keep your eyes watching your model. And this is the idea. Just show for the people, or just show to you more time the models on your cases, which one the people can stay more time watching them. Why? Because you will have more areas to watch. For example, if you want to represent something more realistic, my opinion is mix different kinds of snow, because some of them will look wet, some of them like new, like powder, and then some of them like slush, like was wetting, and you see at the end something more like slush. So if you mix at the beginning some of them, you don't have to add like 50-50, more or less like 90% for someone, and then another one 10% or 15 will be okay. Once time you have something like that, I recommend you with a spatula apply on the bases. Why? Because if you use an old brush, will work, for sure will work if you are using an old brush, but the truth at the end you will have to clean it really well, because if not, you will destroy your brush. So be careful with that. This is the reason why I recommend you a spatula like that one. That one is someone that I made it. So this is handmade, so it's my own spatula, but you have the option to buy on the market some of them. From dentists, for example, they have really cool and nice, and then from arts too, and then from crafts could be really interesting too. I recommend you something with metallic instead of plastic, much better than other kind of gums, brushes or similar, but if you want, with gum brushes could work too. Once time you apply the snow and it's wet, it's time to add, like I'm doing, on that with powder or other snow on that. Why? Again, to have different textures. You will have like a background with some textures and then on the top another one. And I think in that way you will have really interesting and realistic, we can say, textures on the bases. Once time we have something like that, my opinion looks a bit boring because everything with the snow, it's not enough, at least for me. So once time you have something like that, it's time to add, for example, leaves, grass, or another materials that you can apply for that base. For example, if you think that that kind of snow is more from spring, maybe you can add really green grass. Or if you want to think that that one is more from autumn, something like that, I think with autumn leaves, like in that cases, will work really well as I did it. The way to do it, as I did it, just random, apply on the base and will work perfectly. Once time you have a base like that, it's time to add, I think, the key of all that things. What is the key? Just trying to apply like that kind of, we can call them like ice stalactites. So that kind of idea is how you have to do it or apply on your bases. The idea will be use exactly the same products that we use on the bases. Instead of use cyanoacrylate or other kind of glues, we will use exactly the same product that we used for the snow. In that case, I use that water effect and I'm going to use as glue that water effect. So the first one, it's apply that water effect, then stick the plastic from the blister with that form like a triangle. And then once time is completely dried, I'm going to apply many layers, 1 or 2 thick layers. I think with 2 will be enough. You don't have to add 15 layers because it doesn't make sense. But don't try to add just a really thick layer, because if you add a thicker layer, I think more than 3 millimeters, won't look completely transparent. That's a trick. If you want something thicker like that, it's better try to apply 2 layers with 1 or 2 millimeters than just a single one with 3, just to have very transparent result, as I'm doing. With that, you can use your oldest brush. For sure, synthetic brush will work perfectly. You don't have to use the natural brushes from your favorite brushes or the best point of brushes that you have, because it doesn't make sense. Again, just with the oldest brush will work really well, and just that. The idea to apply, as you see, touching, and then once time is dried, you will see if you need to apply again. In my opinion, on the top of them, it is thicker than on the bottom, will look better, because you will continue having that triangle effect from the stalactites, and for me it looks more realistic. And just that, once time you have something like that, the miniature will be done and ready to your display or share with your friends on your war games. So thank you very much to watch that video tutorial. For me, it was a real pleasure share all my knowledge with you here on my YouTube channel. Thank you again. So I hope you can send me some likes, share with your friends. Just give me some or send me some comments to know your ideas, your feedback, and know what kind of ideas or topics you want for the next tutorials. So again, thank you very much to watch that video tutorial, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.